All right, we're going to begin our final session. And I hope that you all have been thinking deeply about your priorities, about your lifestyle. How much is your life based on ignorance? And how much is your life based on genuine knowledge, spiritual knowledge? We hope we have stimulated your appetite for truly understanding the supreme knowledge that Krishna gives. Whether or not you have read the Mahabharata, whether or not your grandmother told you stories from the Mahabharata, what really matters is understanding the science of Krishna. Beyond being a blind follower, beyond being a true believer, what Krishna is offering you is entrance into the bhakti laboratory, where you can get practical, hands-on, spiritual experience. You accept that you're not simply biochemicals, you're spirit soul. So then, what is the spiritual reality? How do we experience that? We've been speaking the whole weekend about happiness. How our understanding of what makes us happy is faulty, and that takes humility to accept. We've been contrasting material happiness with spiritual happiness. You might say, well, we need to know more about this spiritual happiness, which is beyond material happiness and distress. That comes by your experience, and we're trying to motivate you to get that timeless experience. The same experience that the greatest yogis and meditators and sages and sadhus had. You can have while you are pursuing your work life, your study life, your family life. If you do things Krishna's way, you'll be above the dualities of happiness and distress. Let's talk about our faults in trying to understand happiness. Just think the things you could acquire in life, the achievements. You always think of those things in terms of the bang it's going to bring you, the happiness. If I get a new car, it will be like this. If I marry this person, yes, it'll be like that. Whenever you look ahead into the future, you're making calculations, projections for your happiness. And that motivates you. When I get the increase in salary, I will feel in this way. When I have a child, I will feel in that way. Now, what scientists have found out is that when it comes to predicting exactly how you will feel in the future in terms of happiness, you're almost always wrong. Human beings have a problem in that they cannot accurately predict the emotional bang of happiness they'll get in the future by achieving certain things, getting certain things. And human beings keep making the same mistake again and again, over-projecting for happiness. Just catch yourself doing that now. Think of your future hopes and plans. All I have to do is get this, and then I'll feel satisfied. Maybe it's more money. Maybe it's a wife or a husband. Maybe it's family prestige, social respectability, or bigger house. Just feel how you think you're going to feel in the future. And behavioral scientists tell you, you're almost always wrong. You cannot properly predict. You overestimate all the time. There's something about the illusory energy of Krishna that bewilders you. And you fall for it again and again. Things never give you that bang that you thought they would give. So remember, when it comes to predicting exactly how you'll feel in the future, you're almost always wrong. Isn't that humiliating? Not only are you wrong in predicting your happiness, but also your unhappiness. You might think, if this would happen to me, I would be devastated for life. And behavioral scientists say, again, you overestimate. In other words, you can't accurately predict the most vital thing to you, your happiness. You're way off the mark. And you can't even predict your distress. Think, if I broke my leg, that would be, I would feel so horrible. If my car was smashed, that would be the end of me. If my proposed marriage ended, there was a breakup, how heartbreaking. But we always exaggerate both our happiness and distress. We can't predict how we'll feel after the actual experience happens. So let's understand one thing clearly now. You're always motivated by an emotional kickback. You do things because you expect to feel a certain way. When I go to Australia to study, and I finish studying, I will feel like this. Then I'll get a job, I'll feel like that. Then there'll be marriage, I will feel in this way. Then there'll be children, that will make me feel in that way. This is going on constantly. But actually the facts are that human beings are not expert in figuring out how they're going to feel in the future. They're actually very, very inefficient about that. Think of some achievement. Maybe you can mention something? Some acquisition, some achievement. Name one.
PR.
You get your PR. Permanent residency in the lucky country. The better infrastructure. How you will feel to cross that hurdle. You can't properly estimate how you're going to feel. In your mind, before you get it, you build it up to such a big thing. And then after you get it, it becomes quickly routine. Another thing? Huh? Someone said something?
House.
House, a bigger house.
Lamborghini.
Huh?
Lamborghini.
You have one?
I wish.
So when you, let's just say BMW. You think, wait till my friends back in India realize I have a BMW. They're just driving, Tata Sumo, and I have a BMW. Of course, you can't drive it back to India across the ocean, so you'll send them pictures on your mobile phone, right?
Facebook.
Huh?
On Facebook.
Facebook. Just look at me. See how happy I am. But did you know that very quickly you lose those feelings of happiness at your acquisition. There's a psychological term called adaptation. It's amazing how the brain of the human being works to push things into the background of routine. At first, oh, BMW. But very quickly your brain processes the experience and just sticks it back into the day-to-day routine. Or you might think marriage. Oh, now everything will be so nice. This will be such a great event. But again, quickly the brain processes it all and everything becomes humdrum routine. Huh? So, why is it that we fall for being illusioned every time? Nothing will be as exciting as we anticipate it will be. If you're smart enough to figure this out, you can save yourself so much trouble. Things won't excite you the way you anticipate, and the so-called excitement won't last as long as you think it's going to last. Haven't you already experienced that? Yes, but still you can't resist trying again and again and again. So what does Krishna say about that in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna says, Mudha janmani janmani, birth after birth, you become a fool. Not just one lifetime, birth after birth. You fall for this again and again. So, this gap between what we predict and what we actually experience has a fancy name to it. It's called impact bias. That means impact, the errors we make in anticipating the bang, the impact that a particular event or acquisition is going to give you. And bias means our propensity to make that mistake. So watch out for these impact biases. They fill our life. They drive us. They motivate us. You're always thinking, how am I going to feel in the future when this happens and that happens? How do you get out of the habit of doing this? You need some superior activity. And Krishna beckons to you, come to the superior platform. Get beyond all this impact bias. Get beyond this adaptation in which whatever pleasure you do quickly becomes routine. Don't be fooled. But unless you have some superior experience, you must fall for the inferior. You see how it works? Unless you've got something better, you must fall for the illusion. Again and again and again. Now, try to understand what I'm saying. You're right about obvious things. You could say, well, I'd rather have a BMW than a Holden. So you can make those kind of choices. I'll feel happier having a BMW than a Holden. But you're wrong in terms of the happiness that the decision is going to bring you. See the difference? You might say, I'll be happier marrying Sunita instead of who?
Anita.
Sunita instead of Anita? Okay. It could be said to be true, relatively speaking, on the material platform. But you always overestimate the happiness that Sunita is going to bring you. Because we cannot, as human beings, properly predict our future happiness, we're always subject to miswanting. It's not simply that we don't get all the time what we want. Actually, we don't even know what we want, because we don't really know what's going to give us true happiness. We imagine. You work yourself up in your mind that, oh, when I get this, how happy I will be. It's all an illusion. So you actually don't even know what you want. So what we're talking about is, in other words, called effective forecasting. Just like people forecast markets, they also forecast effects, the emotional effects of happiness. Accept that you are lousy at this, and then you can begin to find peace. Just accept that you're lousy at this effective forecasting effects of happiness. As long as your pride is still there, I can do it. I know what will make me happy. I know how I'm going to feel in the future. You'll never be able to see the illusion if you hold on to that pride. Just think, we cannot accurately predict what will make us happy in the future. We might think, well, I'm an intelligent person, I'm an IT engineer, I'm a civil engineer, I'm biomedical engineering. But when it comes to the link between prediction, decision making, and happiness, we fail. Is this too much to accept? It's embarrassing, I know. We think as competent adults, I know how I'm going to feel when I get this. I know what's going to make me happy. But actually, we don't. Things also go the other way. We actually don't predict properly our feelings of distress. We might say, well, if there's a divorce, or if I get a bad disease, how horrible it will be. But actually, we underestimate our defense mechanisms, our emotional defense mechanisms, that somehow it's never as bad as we think it's going to be. So things go both ways. We can't accurately predict our happiness, and we can't accurately predict our distress. What's an example of not being able to predict your distress accurately? Behavioral scientists have found that people make this mistake again and again. They say, I would rather have a pulled muscle in my leg and be bothered about that every day than to break my leg. But actually, they've analyzed and found out that having a pulled muscle in your leg, that frustration day after day, actually gives you more distress than if you just break your leg once and it heals. In other words, it's the irritating things, the annoying things that go day to day that cause us the most misery. But we don't see it that way. We think that if there's something major happens to me, all of a sudden, that's the worst thing. No, the worst things turn out to be those annoyances that are routine day after day after day. Now let's go back to the concept of chewing that which has already been chewed. Can you see how you're doing that? Who here is doing anything new? No one. You're doing what preceding generations since time immemorial have done. So there is a kind of comfort in uniformity, in conformity. But it's also deadening. Another word for this conformity is mass consensual trance. Everyone consents. They give their consent. Yes, yes, let's all be an illusion together. And then that's called a society. Let's all be bewildered together. As long as I agree, you agree, you agree, who knows the difference? In fact, being an illusion becomes normal. Krishna doesn't like this. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives instructions to break up this mass trance. Wake up, wake up, wake up! You're not the body, you're spirit soul, you're my part. Wake up, live a spiritual life. And what do we say? But Krishna, no one is doing what you say. Look around. Everyone's bewildered. So what's wrong with being bewildered? Everyone in my family's bewildered. All my neighbors, everyone at my school, my workplace, they're all bewildered. So why do you expect something different from me? What do you think? Of course, if we associate with those who are awake, we'll also be awakened. And that's why association with devotees of Krishna is so important. You become like whom you associate with. As Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what is night for the materialist is day for the devotee, and vice versa. They're just birds of a different feather. They fly in different skies. So this weekend, we wanted to welcome you to the world of bhakti, love and devotion for Krishna, the spiritual reality. But there's another thing that also is part of our illusion. You already understand about the impact bias. You cannot accurately predict your feelings of happiness and distress in the future. You're fooled every time. But there's also something called an empathy gap. That means when you are in an agitated state of mind. Now, what agitates the mind? Anger, greed, envy, lust, fear. When you're in that kind of state of mind, you make completely different decisions than you'd make in your normal state of mind. Of course, for many people, the normal state of mind is to be angry, envious, greedy, and lusty. But, okay. In that case, when you're extremely angry, greedy, lusty, and envious, you make decisions that are very different from what you normally make. Call the agitated state of mind the hot state, and call what is normal for you the cold state. So when you're in the cold state, you cannot accurately predict how you're going to behave in the hot state. Think about that. You're making decisions for your future. You can't predict how you're going to behave in the hot state when you're in the cold state. You might think, oh, I'm a rational person, I've made plans, strategies. But when you're in a hot state of mind, influenced by anger, greed, lust, or envy, you do things that are that you never thought you would do. And you could never predict that you'd do such a thing. So behavioral scientists have found that this is what happens to you. You become like another person in your hot state. Of course, if you're into marketing, anyone here into marketing? No. If you're into marketing and market research, You love for the consumers to be in a hot state of mind, because then they can be manipulated. Advertising does that. It tries to get you into a hot state of mind. You have to have this product. Everyone has it. This product is good for you. It'll make you feel so happy. That's the whole point of marketing. To get you in a hot state of mind so that you make decisions. What kind of customer do stores like the best? The impulse shoppers. You have any impulse shoppers here? Generally, ladies are known to be impulse shoppers. And retailers love it when a lady walks into the shop. Especially without the husband. Or if she's going to bring the husband should be subordinate and in the background while the lady's making all the buying decisions. Because the retailers know that ladies like to impulse shop without considering all the rational considerations. And that means higher profits for the merchant. They've understood the principle that get someone in a hot state of mind and they'll do things, they'll buy things that normally they wouldn't do. What's an example of how anyone, man or woman, could be influenced like this? Let's say you need a box of laundry soap. So you go to the supermarket to get one box of laundry soap, yes? And then you see on this shelf, get 2 boxes, or get 3 boxes for the price of 2. What happens then? You start thinking, well, I only actually need 1, but how can I resist getting 3 for the price of 2? And so that's how the retailers grab you. You want a deal, you want a bargain. So even though you don't need any more boxes of laundry soap, you can't resist the bargain, right? Well, who knows, in the future I could need more boxes. Or maybe my friend needs a box. You'll never give it to your friend, but you just think like that, right? So it works on you every time. You only need 1 of something, and the advertising says, pay for 2, you'll get the 3rd one free. How can I resist? I'm getting more. Even though I don't need it, I'm getting more. So that's how the marketing research people play with your mind. They get you into a hot state. More for me. Even though you don't need it. So, what behavioral scientists have found out is that again, when you're in a hot state of mind, you're like a completely different person, but you don't know it. You can't predict the decisions you're going to make when you're influenced by abnormal amounts of lust, anger, greed, and envy. There's the normal, which accompanies every person, but then there's the abnormal, and you can't figure out in advance. So the behavioral scientists say, it's like you're dealing with a different person. The difference between you in your hot state and you in your cold state is as much as the difference between you and another person. Think about that. And we think we've got it all together. I know me. I would never do such a thing. You don't know. So unless you can learn how to control your mind and senses, you'll always be victimized by this hot state of mind. You can probably, you don't have to say it, but you can think and remember times when you did things that you never thought you would do. When people are intoxicated, when their minds are agitated by anger or lust, they do crazy things that they never could predict that they would do. Because they're making the predictions in their cold state of mind. But they don't know that when they're in the hot state of mind, they're like a different person. So see how the uncontrolled mind gets us into so much trouble. People don't know what will really give them more pleasure. They don't know. They don't know themselves. So if you can appreciate this point, you save yourself so much trouble. Why work so hard for something that you actually don't know about? You can't predict how you're going to feel. So what should you do with your life then? Should you just lay on the ground and do nothing? That's impossible. You have to do something. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nahi kaschit chanamapi jatu tishta jagarmakrit. No one can stop acting, even for a moment. Everyone has to always do something. So what to do if you're not acting for your own happiness, even though it's a wrong calculation, a wrong projection? What are you going to do? Krishna says, engage your body, mind, and intelligence in serving Him. Learn how to serve the Supreme Soul. That is the main and only business of the Spirit Soul. We are part of Krishna's family, the Achyuta Gotra, the dynasty of the infallible. How is Krishna infallible? His pleasure efforts never fail. And He wants you to join with that program. Be a part of the Achyuta Gotra. You see, it's one thing to understand God as the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. But far superior to that knowledge is understanding Krishna as the supreme enjoyer. How many of you ever thought that's what God is, the supreme enjoyer? No, you think that's your job. God is to be worshipped. We do pujas for God. But that God is the supreme enjoyer? No, no, no. That's our job. And we do pujas so that God may assist our enjoyment. But that God has His own enjoyment? How can that be? He should just sit back and get the pujas. Well, we have all the pleasure activities. But when you understand Krishna and Krishna's pleasure and how Krishna enjoys with His devotees, then you'll lose interest in your imitation of Krishna. You want to be the supreme enjoyer, but we fail so miserably. We can't even predict properly what will make us happy. So this bhakti knowledge, this knowledge of Sanatana Dharma, is the most important knowledge for a human being. It is the real wealth. It is the real treasure. How, with your spirit soul, you engage in service to the Supreme Soul. You're part of Krishna. How can you avoid Krishna? You can only avoid Krishna in illusion. And therefore we're undergoing the nightmare of material existence. But Krishna wants us to wake up from that nightmare. Why are you doing what you're doing? We hope that this weekend you have a new perspective on your life. So many of you have told me, I want to do the nice thing. I want to do the right thing. But how do you decide what is nice or right? Only someone who knows every circumstance and every situation can actually give instruction on what is right. Now, can you say you know every circumstance, every situation, you know what goes on with everyone, therefore you can say this is right, this is wrong? No, you have such limited, tiny knowledge. But Krishna is in everyone's heart as the super soul. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Ishwar Sarva Bhutanam Hridaya Arjuna Tishtati. Arjuna, I'm in everyone's heart. I see what everyone's doing. So Krishna has the qualifications to say what is right and what is wrong. You might try to decide for yourself, but you'll just make a decision based on your limited knowledge and your limited circumstances. In other words, Dharma, what is to be done and what is not to be done, comes directly from Krishna. Man-made Dharma will always be incomplete and faulty. You might say, well, I just want to be a nice person. But your definition of a nice person will be different than your children's definition. And their children's definition. Your definition of being a nice person might be to only look at pornography on the internet once a week. And then your children, 5 times a week. And then their children, every day. So things just get more and more wild, haven't you noticed? How do you draw the line? And how will you draw the line with your children? You'll say to your children, but we never did these things when we were younger. Probably your parents told you that, right? Be careful what happens when you go to Australia. They do things that we would never do when we were younger. But what happened when you came? You started to explore those things. And then you'll have children and you'll tell your children, well, when I was a student in Australia, when I was working as a young man or woman in Australia, your mother and I, we never did such things. But your children, they'll be doing more extreme things. So each generation becomes more and more wild. But each generation thinks we're nice compared to other people. We need to hear from Krishna. Because Krishna is present everywhere, because he's in everyone's heart, he can establish what is Dharma for all places and all times. So once you accept that you are non-material, then you need to find out what are the guidelines for non-material living. Just like I was talking with our friend from Melbourne University, he's studying biochemistry. We were discussing, if you're going to be an honest biochemist, you have to admit that you don't understand what is consciousness and what is the self. You can't make a self. You can't make consciousness in a laboratory by mixing chemicals. So just admit you don't know what you're doing. Why make big talk? In the future, we will create life. In the future, we will show you for sure that everything is biochemical. Everything, absolutely everything. First do it, then talk. So he asked me, our young friend from Vietnam there, he asked me, well, how can you use this knowledge in Krishna's service? How can you use biochemistry in Krishna's service? I said, here's what you do. You use your knowledge of biochemistry to state that there are certain things beyond the reach of our science. We can't understand consciousness. We can't understand what is the self with our limited science. If you just do that much, it helps people. Admit your limitations. Of course, there's always a fear that if a scientist admits that there are limits to his knowledge, then he's risking the grant money. To get grants, you always have to present yourself. We will solve everything. Just like an IT person going for a job. I know everything about IT. You have to present yourself in that way. One devotee, he works in IT in New Zealand, and he told me his company was wanting to expand from Wellington to Auckland. The company's called Silver Stripe. You've heard of it? Anyone heard of Silver Stripe? Anyway, so to open up their business in Auckland, they put out job, advertisements. We have jobs. You think that, they're wanting to hire. They'd be flooded with applicants. And they were. They had 200 applicants for a few jobs. And each case, the applicant was saying, I know the technology that you're utilizing. I understand your system completely. And in each case, none of them knew. So the company interviewed 250 persons and didn't hire one person. Because none of them actually knew what they were talking about. But they're all bluffing. I know. I have so much experience in this technology. I understand the system. Don't worry. They didn't hire one person out of 250 applicants. Because no one knew what they were talking about. They were just bluffing. So biochemists or any scientist shouldn't be like that. They shouldn't bluff. They should just say, we don't know. With our science, it's not possible to understand certain things. It's beyond the range of our science. That would help people. Instead of agitating people's minds with propaganda. There's no doubt life comes from chemicals. When will the public wake up and realize this fact? That's cheating. If you don't know, just say you don't know. It's all right. But that's bad for getting grant money. So the whole world is moving on in this cheating way. Just think of the benefits of understanding the science of Krishna and teaching it to others. That's the best thing for you, for your family, for the world. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is not just some ethnic book for a certain part of the world. Bhagavad Gita is for everyone, for all times and all places. How to be happy by connecting to Krishna, the source of all happiness. You see, you're too tiny on your own to manufacture happiness. You don't have the ability, you're too small. But if you connect to Krishna, you tap into Krishna's unlimited happiness. Just think, you're failing at getting happiness. You can't even properly predict happiness because you're too tiny. But if you connect to Krishna, the complete whole, then you become happy without even struggling for your happiness. That's the secret of bhakti, Krishna consciousness. Water the tree at the root, and all the branches blossom. The hand brings the food to the mouth, and the whole body is energized. One friend, one of our guests this weekend, he was asking me, okay, you serve Krishna, but what's in it for me? And Krishna gets a lot, but what about me? That's like the hand saying, if I bring the food to the mouth, what's in it for me? The food goes into the mouth and goes into the stomach. What about me? I did all the work. I picked up the samosa and brought it to the mouth. What do I get from this? Well, obviously, you bring the food to the authorized place, to the mouth, it goes into the stomach, it's digested and assimilated, the whole body is energized, the hand included. Why should the hand be paranoid? What's in it for me if I bring the food to the mouth? It means the hand doesn't understand its own nature to be part of the whole body. Similarly, we don't understand our whole nature to be part of Krishna. That is our problem. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching us the most wonderful science of how, even amidst your work life and your family life, you can put your life on another level, in another dimension, the spiritual dimension that comes from satisfying Krishna. We're not talking about blind following. We're not talking about mechanically doing rituals and pujas. You don't even know why you're doing it. We're talking about the deepest, most profound science, the spiritual science as Krishna teaches. That is the greatest treasure for the world. The greatest wealth, the greatest luxury. All right. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
How does knowledge help in increasing the bhakti?
Because the more you know about Krishna, the more you are attracted. Just like in the future, you hope to get married, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, you want to be brahmachari?
I said yes.
Huh?
I said yes.
You want to marry? Okay. So your hope is that your parents, they'll arrange someone, yes? No.
I don't know.
You'll
Not decided.
decide. You may make your own arrangements. Modern style, huh? That's all right. So, don't worry, I'll put the word out through the microphone and all possible candidates will hear. You wanted me to do that, didn't you? Very clever of you. You had that thought out, right? I'll tell Swami that, yes, I probably want to get married. He'll say it to the microphone, and so many candidates will emerge. What field are you in?
I'm studying Master of Engineering Management.
Master of Engineering. Did you hear that? Master of Engineering. Where are you from?
I'm from India, Delhi.
A Delhi-wala, sophisticated.
I got the answer of question. Thank you.
So, I was going to explain that
Thank you so much.
when you meet the girl, you're going to hope that the more you know her, the more you'll be attracted, right?
Yeah.
So similarly, when you meet Krishna again, the more you know about Krishna, the more knowledge you have of Krishna, the more you'll be attracted to Krishna. And Krishna is unlimitedly attractive.
One more question.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we see in India, like so many people, poor people, below poverty line. A lot of them, they also worship Krishna every day, and they are vegetarians, and still they are dying because of no food and poverty and no money. And here we see in Australia, like people who do all sort of bad karmas, bad things, and they don't even go to temples, not even churches. They do all the bad stuff, and they are like enjoying it.
So what do you think?
Like, what do you think?
No, what do you think?
I'm confused. That's why this is the question.
Oh, so you want to do all the bad things too?
No, I'm thinking, like, how is that fair?
I know. This is what you want. You want to have money and do the bad things. Instead of be poor and do good things.
No.
Or you want money and do the good thing?
Yeah, that's
okay.
that's the thing. Yeah. That's the place.
Okay, I'll put it out through the microphone. He wants to do good things with money. Okay, all candidates, you hear that?
That was the last question. Please answer it.
You see, whether you're rich or poor, that's a material consideration. Krishna is beyond that. And also, you may be rich, but you're still going to die. Remember earlier today we talked about the first class death and the so-called third class death, when actually all death is last class?
Yeah.
We want to find out what is beyond birth and death. That's the real wealth. Someone who's rich may lose all their money. It happens all the time. Someone who's poor may become rich. But Krishna and Krishna consciousness is beyond all those material dualities. Happiness, distress, rich, poor, sickness, health. These are fluctuating material conditions. Due to karma from the past life, someone may be in a temporarily comfortable situation. Due to karma from the past life, someone may be in a temporarily not comfortable situation. But it all changes. How to get above all this karma? That is what the intelligent person is thinking. The example Srila Prabhupada would give. If the police come to arrest you, not you, but in general, the police come and they put on the cuffs, you know? Handcuffs. They say to you, actually, you are a higher person, so we'll put on you silver handcuffs. And this person is just a low person. We'll put tin handcuffs. What do you think? It's better to have the silver handcuffs or the tin handcuffs? The best thing is no handcuffs. So material life means some people are wearing silver handcuffs, some are wearing tin handcuffs. The temporarily rich and comfortable people have the silver handcuffs. They're prisoners, but, oh, look at my handcuffs. Silver, pure silver. Look at this poor person with tin handcuffs. Both are bound to material existence. Bound by birth, death, disease, and old age. The goal of life is no handcuffs. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what Krishna wants to give you. Real freedom through bhakti, loving devotional service to Krishna. Very good question. Yes?
Today I got 3 questions.
Try one.
So my first question is like, how do you distinguish between the material happiness and the spiritual happiness?
Material happiness means what's good for my body and mind and other people's bodies and minds. Generally your friends and family. Spiritual happiness is what's good for Krishna's pleasure.
Can you just explain it? I still couldn't get that properly.
Haven't you done things for someone else's pleasure before?
Yeah.
Like what, for example?
Maybe like helping my friends
Yes.
in some task which they are unable to do.
Like what? Fix their car or fix their computer or what?
Oh no, like a person was in my uni, he was unable to print his assignments
Mm-hmm.
because there was some problem, and then like I showed him how to do all that,
Mm-hmm.
because there was nothing for me to
Uh-huh.
tell him that.
Uh-huh.
Even then I did that.
Mm. So you know what it's like to sacrifice for others, yes?
Yeah.
Similarly, If you sacrifice to please Krishna, that is spiritual. And in that way, automatically you'll be satisfied. Water the tree at the root, and all the branches will blossom. Get to the root of existence. That is spiritual. Find the root and water the root. That's what Krishna is asking in Bhagavad Gita. Just like the wonderful meals that you had this weekend. Everyone liked the food?
Yes.
Yes. It's all been offered to Krishna. So that's why it's so special. The food has been cooked for Krishna's pleasure. So when you take it, you're tasting Krishna's pleasure. Krishna has already enjoyed it. But if you just cook something for yourself and gobble it, you're trying to satisfy yourself. But if you offer your food to Krishna, you let Krishna first enjoy and then you take. When you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, you're calling out to Krishna, how can I serve you for your pleasure? That's what makes the chanting of Hare Krishna so wonderful. It's a call by the Spirit Soul to the Supreme Soul, how can I give you pleasure? In this way, you rise above your limited, tiny, imperfect situation. Any other questions? I know you had 3, but let's see if others have any. Yes?
Why are we not able to remember our karma, our past deeds?
Because part of karmic reaction is ignorance.
So if we come to know what our previous karma is, we can just rectify it.
No, all you have to do to understand your previous karma is look in the mirror. If you see a material body, then you know you made a mistake. It's not necessary to know every exact thing you did. You should be able to judge that you have a body of matter. That's like a prison uniform. Well, you think, speaking generally when I say you, everyone thinks the body is for enjoyment. But actually the body causes you so much distress. And any little momentary pleasure just sets you up to be knocked down by the inevitable distresses. This body is a mechanism doomed to failure, today or tomorrow. But we say, oh, because no bad thing is happening to me today, everything is fine. Let the bad things come in the future. But the intelligent person doesn't want bad things today or tomorrow. But in order for that to happen, you have to go to the spiritual platform. Do things Krishna's way. That's all he's asking in Bhagavad Gita. Do things his way. And what do we say? Oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what will make me happy. Krishna, all you have to do is give me this material thing or that material thing. I know how I'll feel in the future. You don't. So we approach Krishna wanting some toys. And Krishna wants to give us the priceless gem. What Arjuna got, Krishna wants you to have. Anything else? Yes.
How to get away from the birth and death cycle?
That is the whole process of bhakti, doing what Krishna wants. You're interested to do that?
What should I do?
Huh?
What should be the process?
It begins by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, calling out to Krishna, glorifying Krishna.
I don't want to be a devotee, but I would like to continue.
You don't want to be a devotee, but you'd like to what?
Continue chanting mantra and
All right, don't worry about whether you're a devotee or not. Just continue chanting. Okay? And gradually more intelligence will come. Yes.
How do we convince our family members that Krishna consciousness is the right thing to do if they have been following other demigods and they vouch by the fact that these are the demigods that you and our parents have been worshipping, and now you can't change the family tradition?
Always be respectful with parents and show by example. Don't argue with them, but let them see the benefits of your following Krishna's instructions. And gradually they'll become curious. And when they become curious, you can give them some books and they'll start to read. But don't try for the quick takedown, Like wrestlers, they want to immediately put the other wrestler on the mat. That's called the quick takedown. Quick knockout, Be gradual, be strategic, patient. They're older. No matter what you say, often they think, that's just our son. They're not going to immediately accept you as the spiritual guru of the family. In the future, they may. But you have to be patient. Be respectful. Let them see your wonderful example. They'll be interested. You're not eating onions and garlic, but to speak of other unmentionable things. Why is that? Let them become interested. Who is Krishna? The fact is, by serving Krishna, all the demigods are included, because Krishna is the source of all the devas. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Adir hi Devanam. I am the origin of all the devas. Less intelligent persons approach the devas when actually it's Krishna that's the origin of everything. The devas don't have any independent power separate from Krishna. So it's like you want something done and you go to a minor city clerk and you bribe the clerk. When actually, if you would approach the mayor, everything would happen so nicely. We do, no, our family tradition is always to approach the clerk. And this particular clerk is the one that our particular family always goes to. We don't want any changes. Let the family see the benefits by your going to the top, approaching the top. Actually, the demigods, they like it much better if you go to Krishna. Because the demigods are all devotees of Krishna. Yes?
I have a question and I have a sense of an answer, but I don't have that clarity. My question is, why do Sanatana Dharma believe in rebirth? Because that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, to Arjun, I know how many births you have taken, or is it related with karma? And why do we believe in rebirth?
Even in his lifetime, you can see that you have taken rebirth. Where's your baby body?
I can't see that thing.
It's gone. Where's your 10-year-old body? Where's your 20-year-old body? So the body has changed so many times in this lifetime, yet your basic core identity is the same. So even in this lifetime, you can see you've changed bodies. This is logic.
Yeah.
The real proof is not logic. The real proof is that Krishna says, Dehi no sminyata dehi komanam yoganam shada. That's the real proof. Krishna saying, the spirit soul changes from boyhood to youth to old age to death. The wise person, the enlightened person is never bewildered by these changes. If you want to experience your identity separate from the body, you start to chant Hare Krishna. That's why we always ask everyone, please begin to chant Hare Krishna so you get some spiritual experience and you move beyond just being a true believer, blind faith, doing the rituals, doing the pujas, simply reciting some Mahabharata story without understanding who is Krishna. Okay? Yes?
Could you please explain a little more about chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra? Is it material, is it transcendental, or how does it affect us?
Chanting Hare Krishna is not a material process. You can chant Coca-Cola, 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 but you will not be satisfied. But if you chant Hare Krishna, your spiritual awakening will happen. You become awake to Krishna's service. You realize you're not the body, and your material passions diminish, so you can live a simpler life and save more time for spiritual development. So I've talked to a few of you today and urged you to gradually increase your chanting. That's the gateway to spiritual experience, and we have so many books that explain the whole spiritual science. Understand who is Krishna. Don't follow blindly. We have so many smart persons here, engineers, IT. Certainly, if you apply your intelligence to understanding Krishna, your life will be successful. So it has been my great fortune to be with you this weekend, and I hope we've given you a lot to think about and a lot to do. We look forward to seeing many of you again in future events, and I especially enjoy seeing how you make progress from the beginning, how you take your first steps. It's so enjoyable to see, like watching a little child take its first steps. Your questions this weekend were very accurate, enthusiastic. I took note of that from the very beginning. Please be concerned with what is the best thing for yourself, what's the best thing for others. Don't be selfish. Try to understand the spiritual reality and how you're part of it. Know that material acquisitions will never make you happy. Remember Krishna's explanation of happiness in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So it's hard to leave you all, but the time has come. So what we're going to do?
Have some kirtan.
We'll have some kirtan. It'll be, for some of you, your first experience of together calling out to Krishna. So we invite you all to please participate with your hearts. And this way you can have such a wonderful experience of group chanting beyond the platform of the body and mind. All right, thank you, Hare Krishna.